an error occurred.
Uh-oh.
Because YouTube is a steaming pile of dumpster fire.
Mm-hmm.
You know what time it is. Buckle up and enjoy the ride.
And we are live. Greetings to our loyal WFYL listeners around the world. Welcome back to your Philadelphia live stream, only on the Freedom Station. I want to thank each and every one of you for tuning in once again, because you still have the right to hear and the right to be heard. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mike G. As always, with me are Philly Chris, Russ the producer, and Liberty Lee. And you're listening to Mike G in the Morning with The Law Matters. And you can listen to our program every Friday at 7 a.m. Eastern, only on the Freedom Station, WFYL. So let's be heard. I want to remind our listeners that you can participate in the free and open exchange of thoughts and ideas throughout the entire week by visiting MikeGinthemorning.com. Can you tell them, Philly Chris?
MikeGinthemorning.com.
How about you, Russ?
MikeGinthemorning.com.
Very good, Russell. I am so proud of you. It didn't take you 19 minutes. Check out MikeGinthemorning.com. We have very recently added a new feature. Believe it or not, this is what happened, Philly Chris. Obviously, I do gun law seminars from Philadelphia all the way out to the greater Pittsburgh area, sometimes out to the border on occasion.
Mm-hmm.
And at these seminars, I've been providing the attendees with Mike G in the Morning postcards, just so that people are aware of the program in case they want to check us out. And somebody had the bright idea, Mike G, and I say bright idea sarcastically, of putting the QR code for the self-updating YouTube playlist, where you can catch our previous episodes. Or at one time, you could have caught our previous episodes. So we've got all of these postcards floating around out there that have this QR code that leads to basically nothing now because YouTube has decided to censor us.
Mm-hmm.
So what we've done was we took MikeGinthemorning.com and we've replaced the self-updating YouTube playlist with the new Rumble channel. So from now on, our listeners, our audience members will be able to check out our previous episodes on that Rumble channel. We anticipate that at least for the foreseeable future, we will not be banned, removed, censored, or anything of the like. So check out MikeGinthemorning.com. That is the way to stay up to date with all things Mike G in the Morning, Philly Chris, Russ the producer, and Liberty Lee. So tell your friends, tell your family, tell your farmer, tell your baker, tell your Uncle Jerry, tell anybody who'll listen to check out MikeGinthemorning.com. Do you have anybody else that they should tell, Philly Chris?
You tell all your pets. You want to make sure they're aware too. Yeah. The aliens. I want to mention it to the aliens if they do exist. Yeah.
Frogs in particular are very interested in the Mike G in the Morning program.
That's what I heard.
You know who are not? Donkeys are not interested in the Mike G in the Morning.
Definitely not.
Well, maybe they're interested, but not because they enjoy it by any means, right?
Right.
Got our fair share of hate mail. I want to remind our listeners about the powerhouse lineup we've got here at the Freedom Station. We've got Ben Shapiro bringing you the Ben Shapiro Show weekdays from 3 to 6 p.m. Scott Adams with the Scott Adams Show coming at you weekdays from 9 a.m. until noon. Second Amendment advocate Dana Lash coming at you weekdays from noon right until Ben Shapiro. And a very, very new program to the Freedom Station. We've got the Michael Knowles program beginning at 6 p.m. on weekdays. So don't forget to tune in and show them some love. And with that, you know what time it is. Buckle up and enjoy the ride. Russell, hit me with it again.
Oh, all right. Hang on.
Here we go, Russ.
I don't sense that you're matching my level of energy on this program, Russ.
No.
I'm not sure he ever has he?
Oh, let's see.
I'd love to see Russ if his house were on fire, right?
You know what time it is. Buckle up and enjoy the ride.
Those of us just tuning in, you're listening to Mike G in the Morning with The Law Matters, only on the Freedom Station, WFYL. Billy Chris, what's your impression of Russ during a fire? Russ, when his house is burning down.
Let's see. Let's think about this. You'd probably have to get his pizza first or something, Take that out.
His sister comes in. Russ, hurry up, Russ. House is burning down. Got to get out of here.
Right.
Oh, you got to get up now.
Let me grab the pizza. Hold on.
Hold on. He's always telling us to hold on and calm down, right?
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
Dude, the house is on fire. I got to find my slippers first. And
Gotta stay calm.
I guess that in to some degree is sort of an Al-like attribute, right? Al was always very calm in the middle of a storm.
That's right.
Yes.
It's a good thing.
Russ, what's your impression of Russ in the middle of a house fire?
I think you guys kind of nailed it with the calm part. I don't know if I would necessarily be waiting for a pizza or grabbing my slippers. I think
it's calm/irritated is what it is. It's calm/irritated.
Right.
Yeah, I think that would be it.
Having to leave the house because of the fire.
No, I think it would be more of a pain as far as, oh great, the house on fire. Now I have to deal with this. This is gonna take up the next few months of my life, maybe even years.
So you'd be irritated with the house burning down, but not so much irritated that you had to get up to leave the house that was burning down. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'd be irritated that the house burnt down. I'd be irritated that I had to move what little stuff I probably had left. I'd be irritated that I'd probably have to either replace everything or go through insurance claims. And you know how difficult it is up here at the North Pole. And so insurance, you pay insurance your whole life, and then something goes wrong, and then their whole thing is they gotta try and weasel their way out of it instead of just paying for stuff.
Right.
That's a good point. There are many lawsuits, bad faith lawsuits, things of that nature, and the layman's term gripe, right? The everyday language gripe is, I pay all of these premiums every month. Those are not free money. Now what I hoped would not happen did happen, and this is why I have this insurance. So pay me my money.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're like, no, well,
all right,
not so fast.
Apparently you had put a pizza in the oven too long, so it's your fault.
Oh, is that the reason the house burnt down?
And for those who don't know, please
nickname,
nobody panic.
What would Trump's nickname be for us? You know how Trump gives everybody a nickname? Like
Lion. Oh yeah.
Crooked Hillary. What would the Russ nickname be? We call him Testy Russ. Testy Russ. What do you think? Is Testy? What do you think?
On the edge, Russ. Yeah.
What'd you say?
On the edge. He's
on
the edge. But Testy. No, Testy works.
Testy Russ, folks.
How are you, Russ? How you doing over there, big guy?
Feeling a little bit testy.
Gonna get them started.
Speaking of testing, we're always making your life miserable, Russ, by getting kicked off of different social media platforms and by getting banned and censored and things of that nature. We make your life more difficult.
No, you make my life more difficult when you tell me last-minute things. There's no order to anything. It's all chaotic.
Live show live.
Right.
Hey guys, can we convene at 6:30? Oh sure, Russ, you got 4 minutes.
Live on the edge a little bit, Russ.
Living on the edge.
Yeah. So, Russ, you were explaining that some of the restrictions through some of these social media platforms has supposedly become a little more loose, perhaps.
Yes, there has been some of the social platforms. I think Facebook as one of them that I'm aware of, has officially unclenched their butt as far as the pandemic goes, and they are allowing people to talk about it, I guess, in certain ways. I don't go to Facebook.
Thank you so much, Overlords.
Yeah, thank you so much, Surveillance Book.
How could we ever repay you for
shut up and take my data?
Allowing us to say the following things on this list. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for being tyrannical.
Is that what we've become? You know, that brings me to something. Earlier this week, I was provided with a link for something that I thought was extremely important to get out there here in Pennsylvania. And I knew that had I posted the link in and of itself or described the link or anything of that nature, that it would surely be censored, banned, or even shadow banned, where it mysteriously reaches 0 people. That sounds legit, right?
I don't think that's
These
a
posts
mystery.
reach 0 people. They just so happen to be about Darfur.
Right. Yep. Exactly.
So
Yeah.
ultimately what I did was I posted something out saying this: important, calling all PA patriots. I want to post the link, but will get banned/censored if I do. I think this link is very important for people in Pennsylvania to see, so important that I can't risk it getting banned or censored. If you want to see it, visit our website and click Contact Us, or go to the bottom of the page and fill out the info where it says right into the show. Now, fortunately, was able to reach a reasonable amount of people because I kept it vague enough and did not post the link, and we had a significant amount of people write into the program requesting links. So I want to thank everybody who did their part by taking a few seconds to write in and request the link. And what that link was a website called Audit the Vote PA. Audit the Vote PA. And essentially what this is it brings you to this website. It says Pennsylvania demands election integrity. Now, I guess we've got to be very careful about how we describe this over the air so we don't get taken down once again.
Yeah. Gotta be a little careful with our words.
Swear to God, somebody's.
But ultimately, an audit is, I think, a reasonable measure to protect election integrity. We're not making any claims as to what may or may not have taken place in any U.S. presidential election in the history of the United States of America, right? We're specifically not doing that.
Right.
Dopes who are listening in. Maybe that's going to get us banned. So what they've got here is they've got a petition that you can click on and a request that the legislature and your local representatives proceed with an audit of some kind. And so you have the ability to do that, sign the petition by visiting that website, auditthevotepa.com. Now, the good news is, as Russ mentioned a couple of weeks ago, we are still free to speak over the airwaves. Right? We will not be censored in the same way on 1180 a.m. So anybody who's listening by way of radio, you'll certainly hear this. We don't know if it's going to be kept up on any of the other platforms, but at the very least, we've got roughly 100,000 people. Either they're driving to work or they're listening in their shower radio, or maybe they're just awake at 7 o'clock in the morning on a Friday listening to the program. They woke up just for us, Philly. Chris, did you know that? They woke up just for us.
Of course.
We set that alarm 5 to 7.
That's right.
They didn't realize that they could just go to MikeGinthemorning.com, but they've always missed that one. They just like waking up at 7 o'clock in the morning.
And you know what else they can do? They can also get the Rumble app and follow the Mike G channel on Rumble, and then be notified that we put up another video.
See, that's I knew I liked you, Russ. That's how you make yourself useful around. I didn't even know that there was a Rumble app. I probably shouldn't admit that out loud, but after all, I am an old man.
It's okay.
Doesn't it, Russ? Isn't it listed as the Law Matters on there? It's listed differently. I think, right?
Yeah. There's let me bring up the exact thing that it's listed as.
Yeah. I think there wasn't enough room or something. You
said. Mike wanted to spell out the whole thing, which is like, I don't know, 10 words or something. And morning is a pretty long word. as far as like text that'll fit on a vertical screen. So I had to cut it down to, I think it's just the law matters.
Law matters. There we go.
When we were working with
the Law Matters archive
on that, when we were working with that professional on the intro video, and this is a very well accomplished guy, does a lot of conservative media throughout the country, big time stuff. And he sent over a couple of clips for me to take a look at and explained what resolution they were, I think, or what sizes they were, and he's giving me the rundown on any of these things.
Right.
And I asked a question about it. I said, hey, can you just clarify this for me? Because I'm kind of a caveman with this stuff. I really didn't know what he was talking about. And his reply, this guy's hysterical. Me reply, Michael. Daniel want Michael know it inspect. Michael trust good file. It pleasure serve you. This what I call Neanderthal caveman language. It fun. I was dying.
Nice.
Have a guy so talented like that working with us, and also funny. You can joke around a little bit about that.
That's awesome.
So thank you, Russ, for getting us up to speed with Rumble, where at least for the time being, we will not be banned. We will not be censored. I don't have to walk on eggshells when we have these discussions.
Right.
But certainly need to go to auditthevotepa.com to check that out. And it was just a certainty that had I posted that link on any of the social media platforms, or possibly even made a video, not sure, but it would be banned, it would be censored, it would have a minimal reach. So we had to sort of get unconventional about it. I want, again, thank everybody who did write in, take the time, get the information. And if anybody who wrote in wants to be on the program, there's quite a few of you. So we'd have to spread it out over the course of several weeks. But we do offer the invitation to come on the program, sort of like when we began this program as a live show, where people would call in, call into the station and get on the program. Love to have people like that on. Now, we did have a guest.
Live.
We'll do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
Do it live.
Doesn't mean to play us out. Anybody who doesn't know what we're referencing every time we talk that, first of all, you live under a rock.
Right. It's nice and comfortable under there.
Second of all, in case you live under a rock, who's the guy from SpongeBob who lives under a rock, Russ?
That would be Patrick.
Patrick lives under. So if Patrick Starfish is listening to the program,
I didn't know there'd be a test.
That's actually a pretty good Patrick. That's a pretty good Patrick.
That's pretty good.
Let's hope we don't get kicked off for that. Nickelodeon be like, "You're doing our thing. We're gonna monetize this."
Well, did I tell you boys that there was a SpongeBob episode on that had to do with mustard? It was solely revolved around mustard.
No.
We've got to do some kind of video where, you know how we always watch news videos, or we watched like the Chipman hearing last week and commented on that.
Yeah.
And we do stuff like that. We should certainly do that with the mustard episode of SpongeBob SquarePants.
Yeah, there we go.
Well, the thing is, we've actually, the one video that we did, I can't remember if it was last week or the week before, but we played a clip from 60 Minutes, and CBS is like, "Hey, you can't do that. That's ours. We're gonna make money on it."
If we're commenting on it, and
they don't care. YouTube doesn't play by the. YouTube already hates us. They're not going to be like, "Oh yeah, that was fair use."
That was perfectly within the rules, Mike G. In the morning, you win.
Yeah, yeah.
We'll allow it.
Thank you, Your Highness. That's the sad state of affairs that the social media and even the video platforms are in right now. You have to kind of direct people off of it in order to get something not censored.
Sure.
And that's terrible.
Mm-hmm.
Too much.
I love when the views on our videos go down too, right?
Oh, yeah, that always makes sense. Yeah.
People unwatched the video. It was erased from their mind.
They're watching them
backwards.
Tech
overlords sent drones to their homes.
Right.
And had them stare into this little tiny light that made them forget the video and unwatch the video.
Like Men in Black.
Exactly.
Like Men in Black.
The flashy thing.
A little flashy thing, right?
Yeah, the neuralizer.
Like in Ferris Bueller's Day Off when I put the Ferrari up on the blocks and drove it in reverse, you know?
Well, I do want to, I can't make this clear enough. I want people to check out auditthevotepa.com. There is an audit taking place in Arizona right now. It has gone on much longer than expected. As a matter of fact, from what I understand, they contracted with a group of people who were to be there and participate in the audit for a period of time. And their contract ran out because it has taken so long. Ultimately, there was a bunch of litigation related to it, trying to put this on hold. I wonder why, right?
Yeah.
For no reason in particular.
Yeah, no reason.
Trying to get rid of this. And ultimately, it was allowed to proceed, but it took a lot longer than anticipated. And so at some point, the folks who were originally contracted were sent home because the contract was up.
How convenient.
And media kind of threw this out there that, this company was no longer working for them, kind of made it seem like they were walking off the job because, they didn't agree with it anymore, which is absolutely not the case. What happened was they were only contracted for a specified period of time, and people are coming from all over the country to do this, leaving their families for several weeks in a row and couldn't stay for any longer.
Right.
But that is still going on. From what I understand, it won't be over this week. Might not be over next week. And, we'll see what comes of that. I don't know what the remedy would be if they discovered anything.
It'll be interesting to see
that
what
is something
happens,
that is happening right now.
Right
that is
now,
something
ladies and
I can't. I'm trying to phrase it in such a way that we're not violating any of the rules, but bottom line
screw
is,
the rules.
I
just
can say
don't use words.
Don't use words.
We may as well just sit here in silence if that's how we're gonna
Just
do
hand
it.
gesture or something like.
Yeah, I got a hand gesture for YouTube.
We're gonna end up being like an offensive coordinator for football. We'll have
That's right.
a whole list of what everything means. Hand them out to the audience.
In the Mike G in the Morning cereal, you can find your decoder.
Your decoder.
It's at the bottom of your bowl of mustard.
That's right. There you go. That's even better, Rush. Yeah.
That's exactly what we should sell. Bowls of mustard that include decoder rings.
He just said zucchini. What does that mean? Get out of town.
Get out of town.
Oh, man.
Now you get out the real code words.
That's right. You're throwing them out there.
Dog. What does that mean?
Yeah. I don't know.
Well, it used to be a forbidden word. I think we're allowed to say it at this point. I think we're allowed to say it. I can't imagine there would be a rule against saying those words.
Oh, well, we've been taken down for less, no?
Yeah, but we won that one. Well, even when
it's because Mike's a real lawyer.
Yeah, but even he was no match for YouTube saying
they simply disregarded the rules and we were pulled anyhow.
Oh,
so
yeah,
that's where we are right now.
Well, that brings me to another interesting thing that's going on. Steven Crowder, he's suing YouTube. I'm not sure if I brought this up before, but I was eager to bring it up before. He's suing them because the same thing that happened to our channel happened to him. He followed the rules. He was within the rules. He explained it, and he ended up with 2 strikes. So he got...
Well, the bottom line is, Steven Crowder, you are not special. Welcome to the club, son.
But he filed an injunction. I don't know what that means in lawyerese, but
Junction. What's your function?
Injunction, not conjunction.
Yeah, I know. I'm just
okay. Well, what does that mean, Mike? What is an injunction?
So you're seeking a court order to have somebody do something or refrain from doing something. It's seeking action rather than damages, right? You're not trying to get money out of them, whether it's compensatory damages or which is money to compensate, or punitive damages, money to punish.
All right.
You're seeking the court to tell somebody to do something or refrain from doing something.
Okay.
It's sort of like when I represented U.S. Law Shield versus the city of Harrisburg, we were seeking injunctive relief. And we were asking the court to ultimately suspend the ordinances, essentially, because they were illegal. They violated preemption law. Now, local governments are not allowed to, by law, regulate the ownership, transportation, possession, or transfer of firearms. And those ordinances did exactly that. So we asked the court to enter an order forbidding them from enforcing those illegal ordinances, and that would be injunctive relief. We actually filed for what they call a preliminary injunction in that case. So what you're saying to the court is, hey, this lawsuit's going to take a very long time because that's the way litigation is. There's this egregious harm that's taking place. They're very clearly wrong. We're likely to succeed on the merits. There's going to be irreparable harm if you don't help us out right away. Please give us a temporary order while this litigation is pending. And we won on 3 of the 5 ordinances on that preliminary injunction. So those ordinances became suspended as of that point.
Well, that's good. But,
is that a lengthy answer for?
Yeah, I wasn't really looking.
Can you repeat that, Mike?
Yeah.
Hey, so
could you type that up and send it to an email address that doesn't exist?
Yeah, right. Another injunction story. There was a sitting judge who sued the firm I was working at very beginning of my career. Basically, what had happened was attorney at my firm requested the phone records of the judges, prosecutors, and some other government officials through the right to know law. And the government provided him with these phone records through the right to know law. And for whatever reason, this judge did not want those records, who he was communicating with and when, in the public. And so he sued the firm, requesting an injunction, ordering the firm to destroy the records, never disclose the records, and a whole bunch of things like that. Basically, make sure they never get out, destroy the records, can't tell anybody about them, can't talk about the contents.
Right.
And I represented the firm. This is within my first year of being out of law school. Ultimately, we won. I raised a First Amendment argument. Nice. So these records were lawfully obtained. They contain a matter of public concern. I'm not saying that this did happen, but if there were improper communications between judges and prosecutors during trials, that would be a matter of public concern. It would be something of interest to the community. And as a result, these phone records are a matter of public concern, and a prior restraint, meaning stopping them from being disclosed, is impermissible and unconstitutional. And we won.
Nice.
We won. Yeah. So that's another one where they sought an injunction. Ultimately,
awesome.
They didn't get it.
Mike G took them down as usual.
Better luck next time.
That's right. Try again.
Thanks for playing.
Yes.
Nice.
Wow.
For those of us just tuning in, you're listening to Mike G in the Morning with The Law Matters, only on the Freedom Station, WFYL. So what's going on in the world of guns? As I understand, there was some movement that took place in Pennsylvania on constitutional carry. Did you hear of this?
Just a little bit about it. Yeah. Where are we at with that, Mike?
Got out of the committee. So
nice. Nice.
Get that on the floor. I want to see people vote, don't you? Don't you want to know who our friends are, just like Dr. Val said?
That's right.
Maybe we go through all this and it gets approved by the legislature and, King Thomas ultimately vetoes it. Maybe that happens. But at least we'll know who our friends are. We'll know who stood up for the Second Amendment and who did not.
Yeah. Have a
line them up.
Right. How many states are constitutional carry now, Mike? Do you know? I don't know if you know off the top of your head, but
it's constantly growing. I don't know if it's 16 or 17. It's
okay. That's pretty good.
Very significant amount. I remember doing an episode maybe 2 years ago where it was about 13 at that time.
Okay. All right.
And people never realize, every time a state comes out with constitutional carry or permitless carry, there's this uproar in the community. They're saying, "Oh my goodness, this is gonna be like the Old West, and blood's gonna run through the streets, and it'll be the downfall of society."
Right.
And it's like, no, dude, this actually is the way it is in a lot of different states, and there are not people bleeding to death in the streets, because guess what? The gang members, the career criminals, the people who are unlawfully possessing firearms in the first place, are not sitting there saying, "Oh man, I really hope that this gets through, so that way we can legally carry on." That's not the way it works. I had a guy tell me that. I was talking about it with a Philly cop, and he seemed like a reasonable guy. And I asked what he thought of constitutional carry. He's like, constitutional carry, you'll definitely have more guns coming into the city. I was like, yeah, but you really think those guys in the Bloods over in Camden are currently not carrying in Philly because constitutional carry isn't imposed? Right. And if constitutional carry passes, then they'll be like, all right, here we go. Walking around with their NRA hat, right?
Right. That's exactly it. Yeah.
I shouldn't say that. GOA hat. Dr. Val is going to.
There we go. Now we're talking.
Oh, GOA.
Dr.
Right?
Val. Dr. Val.
U.S. Law Shield hats.
Right. Yeah.
It reminds me, this is the first Thursday of the month, is it not, Russell?
It is.
It's the first Thursday of the month. Do you know what that means?
Free ice cream.
Oh, is there free ice cream? Yeah.
I don't know where you got that from.
Free bowl of mustard, maybe.
Yeah, mustard ice cream.
That
Mustard
is
custard.
correct. No, that means that this episode of the Mike G in the Morning program is brought to you by the one, the only, Elite Tactical Armory up in the Lehigh Valley. We got to have David Coates back on the program.
Yes,
to talk to us about the different facilities. I know they're in Nevada now, over in Pahrump. But today's episode of the Mike G in the Morning program is brought to you by the good folks over at Elite Tactical Armory, elitetacticalarmory.com, PAcommercialarmory.com. I don't know if our audience members are familiar with commercial armories, but you should be. Bottom line is the government here in Pennsylvania very recently recognized commercial armories as an acceptable mechanism for off-site firearms storage. And Elite Tactical Armory is your firearm storage solution in the Lehigh Valley. There are a bunch of reasons why you may need off-site storage solutions for your firearms, include a number of things. You might be headed out of town for a while. Good idea. Have them nice and secure. Perhaps you have a family member living in the home who's on probation, can't be there. Maybe you got false accusations against you. And you know, people always say that'll never happen to me until it does. Maybe you just ran out of room for all your precious babies. Regardless of what it is, get yourself a unit at Elite Tactical Armory. So visit our friends over at elitetacticalarmory.com and PAcommercialarmory.com. That's elitetacticalarmory.com and PAcommercialarmory.com. Because it's important to support those who support freedom. And be sure and tell them Mike G sent ya. For those of us just tuning in, you're listening to Mike G in the Morning with The Law Matters, only on the Freedom Station, WFYL. So, Philly, Chris, I have taken up a good amount of the discussion so far with audit the vote, with constitutional carry. I understand you've got some things that have been on your mind.
Oh, no.
Well, let's see.
Let's take a guess. I could boil down everything that Chris is going to say and everything that Russ is going to say. Right. I have these wild predictions, right? Russ wants to talk about video games, and Philly Chris wants to talk about aliens. What does Mike G want to talk about? What do you guys think of when you're like, that's the stereotypical thing? Mike G doesn't shut up about that.
Mustard.
Mustard. Guns and mustard.
Well, the gun stuff, of course.
Guns and mustard.
Yeah,
That's gonna be
Guns and Roses.
That's gonna be my new band. Instead of Guns and Roses, Guns and Mustard.
Now we're talking.
We should get a shirt made up that says Guns and Mustard.
There we go. Yeah.
Very similar logo. Looking
for a good talking point. Mm-hmm.
Is there such thing as a mustard flower?
Well, the seeds come from what, the mustard plant there? I don't know. Does it have flowers? I don't even know.
It is your job on this program to know how mustard is made, Philly Chris.
That's right. The seeds. I know there's mustard seeds.
I expect you to know the ins and outs of how mustard is made. Mm-hmm. You're letting me down here.
Let's take a look here if it has flowers.
Yes.
Well, it's got pretty yellow flowers, actually. That makes sense. They look like mustard, yeah.
Bring this up. I'm sure you could Google this and bring this up on the screen.
I already have.
Google mustard flower.
How to grow mustard seeds. Actually, it's a very attractive looking plant with nice, pretty yellow flowers.
I don't know.
It does look like
it makes sense.
Guys, the thing is, I don't know if these are actually how mustard seeds or whatever are made. That might just be, these flowers are the color of mustard. Can't tell.
Yeah.
They might just be the color of mustard.
So if you're a mustard expert listening to the program and you want to get in touch with us right into the Mike G in the morning, you will become the esteemed mustard expert in the greater Philadelphia area.
Nobody else has that.
You will have extreme notoriety. You'll be known as the mustard guy or the mustard gal. And anytime anybody ever thinks of mustard, needs a mustard expert, they'll say, you know who I ought to call is Dr. Mustard from the Mike G in the Morning program.
That's Colonel Mustard to you.
Colonel Mustard!
Perfect.
That is great. So I'm sorry I interrupted you, Philly Chris. You've got a lot to talk about today. You are living in all of your glory, are you not?
Well, we talked a little bit last week about the UFO stuff, and there have been some additional videos. And, the big thing is it's going mainstream now. It's certainly getting much more attention. Part of the reason I've been mentioning it on the show over the past year is because I had a sense that we were going to be seeing more disclosure around this period of time. And I think it's pretty interesting, with everything else going on in the world, that suddenly we're having military personnel and former defense folks coming out, and openly talking about it. And then, of course, we have the report that's scheduled to be due by the 25th of this month, possibly sooner. So,
Why now? Why is it coming out now as opposed to a couple of years ago? Or what's significant about 2021 where we're starting to see this?
Well, it's, last week and in prior episodes, I've mentioned Dr. Greer. And, if you go to his website, he's also got that new documentary, movie coming out next month. It's going to be called The Cosmic
Alien versus Predator Part 3.
That's right. Yeah, it's going to be super cool. There'll be lasers and stuff. Yeah.
What's it called? I'm sorry.
The Cosmic Hoax. Now, again, I don't know exactly, whether or not his position is correct or not. However, he's got a lot of folks in his corner, former military people who have come out talking about these things with him, some on record, some behind the scenes as informants, I guess you would call them. And there'll be some additional detail, I believe, in this movie. So it'll be interesting to see where this goes when it's released. However, his position is that the government or the deep state has this technology, these gravitational propulsion systems, and they may use them, against humanity. Maybe some sort of false flag operation where they do a false alien invasion. Now, it sounds crazy. It sounds pretty wild.
So we were talking about a documentary, just to make that clear, right, Philip?
That's right. Yeah, 100%
we were discussing the potential contents of a documentary.
We'll call it a movie.
Exactly what we're doing. We're discussing a movie. Yeah.
It's a movie.
Yeah, it's a film.
That's correct. Yes.
We're discussing the potential contents of a film, and in this film, they discuss the possibility that.
Yeah, that there's a certain group out there, a rogue group, let's say, deep state. Trump has mentioned that, so we'll use his words. And they may possess this technology. Also, if we go back to things we've talked about on the show regarding Bob Lazar and his description of these craft, and he claims that they are, in fact, extraterrestrial. And then we had several of them at Area 51, which our scientists were able to reverse engineer. So, and, apparently these things are flying around all the time. There's been several pilots, Navy fighter pilots, some of the top pilots in the military have come forward and acknowledge seeing these with their own eyes and with their high-tech radar systems. The ground operators are seeing them travel from space, through the atmosphere down to low altitudes and also into the ocean and traveling underwater.
So that's the one that I think I saw very recently is you see I don't want to call it a flying saucer. I don't think that's the technical term, but
yeah, who knows what it is, right?
It's a UFO, right? They're all UFOs.
UFO, yeah.
So you see the UFO, and they're tracking it, and then the guy says, it just splashed, right?
That's right. Yeah.
You remember what I'm talking about? And that's
I think
it went into the water, and it's apparently an amphibious.
Well, based on the science that Bob Lazar and others have described is
Well, I want to kind of separate the two. I want to separate the two a little bit because with some of the stuff that he's saying, that's not what we're seeing on all of these leaked videos exactly, right? We can't suggest that what we're seeing in the videos proves the other things that he's talking about in this
Sure.
film, right?
That's right. That's right.
So let's separate the two a little bit because you could write that guy off as bonkers if you wanted to.
Sure.
But some of this other stuff that's coming out now, maybe maybe he's not so bonkers after all.
Hmm.
But there's only so much that we've seen so far. It's a lot more than we could have comprehended maybe even a year ago, right?
Sure. Yeah. They
If you
seem to
weren't
be
paying attention to guys
releasing
like
things.
him, if you weren't listening to people, or even if you didn't believe guys like him, you'd
Right.
say, okay, whatever,
Mhm.
he's full of baloney. And you see a video like this, and like, oh, what's that all
Mhm.
about? So,
Yeah.
what do we think is there any idea what something like that would be? Something that flies and then ends up in the water like that? Is the idea that it's traveling in the water after it's quote unquote splashes?
Yeah, well, it's pretty phenomenal technology. It's certainly way ahead of anything that we would be familiar with that's been released to the public. Based on what Bob Lazar said and other folks, it may be one of these gravitational propulsion systems, and the way they operate is they're basically altering the gravitational waves that exist in the universe and around the craft and bending space and time to some degree so that it creates some sort of bubble around it. There have been reports of people seeing that the craft's emitting some sort of plasma, which, based on what Bob Lazar and others have shared about the technology, that's probably how they would operate. And they could basically amplify gravity. So, and that's why the one rotates. In the one video, you can see it rotate where it actually puts its belly up. And Bob Lazar mentioned that back in, many years ago, I think in the 80s, about how they could do that rotation. And then there's three gravitational amplifiers that, using that element 115 he discusses and a nuclear reactor on board, some sort of fusion reactor, I believe, it can amplify the gravitational field. So it's almost like magnets in a way, really strong magnets, but tapping into those magnetic waves. Nikola Tesla talked about gravity and it's a wave, and other scientists and physicists. So it's possible. Is it extraterrestrial? Is it not? Who knows? I guess we'll find out. Time will tell if they do
Well,
it and
you
tell
know
us the
that I've
truth.
never
So,
been one to be sold on aliens or
sure.
anything of that nature. I don't know what you could possibly say about the stuff that has been released. I'm sure there are people out there who claim that perhaps these are inventions of the government or a
Yeah,
foreign
and they
government.
could be ours. Obviously, you think back to like the stealth bombers when everyone first saw those, that was pretty amazing to see. They kind of look like UFOs. So, and I'm sure some of these sightings, these UFOs and what the government is now calling UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomenon, they changed the acronym
Why?
for whatever reason. Some people say just so it's,
'Cause
harder
they
to
don't
find.
technically fly. Or is it because
Right.
you associate UFOs with the movies?
Or with flying
Yeah, I
saucers.
guess to some degree, and in the classified programs, I think they were using that acronym maybe so that if there were freedom of
I'm sure it's very
information
difficult to get
requests.
people to take you seriously when you're talking about quote unquote UFOs, right?
Well, there's been
Even
a
if you
lot
see it
of
with your own eyes.
sure, and our government has done a good job of a highly effective propaganda program to discredit it. And the media has done that for a long time, and it is an easy topic to joke around about. And who wants to say that they believe in aliens or UFOs if there's some sort of stigma with it? And
So
you can
is this an area where the government told people this doesn't exist, this is not true for a lot of years, and now we're starting to find out that maybe the government lied.
right.
They never do that.
Exactly. Yeah, no, they don't do that.
Why would they
don't
do
have to
that? That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
No,
Well, it's
that's
like what we're
ignorant.
seeing,
Last
kind of
year and a
similar
half
to.
has just been having discussions with people. Now the government wouldn't lie to us. What are you talking about? Paranoid
Right.
Trump supporter.
Yeah. Well, it's similar to what's going on right now with Dr. Fauci with the release of his emails, because in the public he was saying one thing.
We'll get to that.
We'll get to that. But
I want to transition to that. I want to finish the segment with the UFOs, though.
sure.
So, ultimately, who released this video that I'm talking about where it goes into the water? Do you know?
I believe they were given to Tom DeLonge. He's actually from Blink 182, and
The
he's been
singer from
involved.
Blink
in it.
182.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. He's been involved. He created To the Stars Academy, but he's been working with quite a few folks from the Pentagon and the military and other places who have come to him, and he's been on a lot of the big programs talking about this, so he's become a subject matter expert on it. And then
Author of classic hit songs, hit tunes such as "What's My Age Again,"
Right.
"Damn It," and "Apple Shampoo."
There we go.
Mustard shampoo.
But it is pretty compelling, what's going on right now, and I guess we'll see what the government decides to release.
I can't think of like all the. I've heard this guy sing ridiculous lyrics throughout my entire childhood.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. It is easy to kind of discredit, this in a way when you look at it a certain way. But
did you watch his interview on Joe Rogan?
I did, yeah.
What did you think of that? Because if you tell me he looked like he had it all together during that interview, then you and I are never going to agree on anything.
Yeah, right. No, I think the challenge that he faces maybe is he's so into this, and it's kind of a passion, and there's so much excitement there with him that at times he gets a little too, into it or excited about the possibility of it, and maybe isn't as objective as he could be. That's kind of how I view him. But some of the experts he's been involved with from the military, I think carry a little bit more weight, and they're
very high level people.
Right. So
because if you watch that interview, I think that may have made people less likely to believe that it were true after you watch that interview. Because
I think Joe Rogan kind of shuts him down a little too, kind of. But I think he's so excited about trying to get the truth, what he believes is the truth, out there.
I could see that as an explanation. He was certainly all over the place.
Right.
All over the place.
He gets a little excited, yeah.
I guess I could see that. If someone who knows the ins and outs of this, they live and breathe this stuff, and is not recognizing that that is not the case for everybody else,
right?
They don't slow down and take the time to explain the very basics and get
right.
from point A to point B. Another thing, which I guess I understand could be a challenge because of the nature of what you're discussing, his answer for a lot of things when he's questioned on them was, well, I can't tell you that. I right?
Right, exactly.
And it's very difficult to trust somebody and believe somebody when there's so many things that they cannot tell you.
Yeah, that's right. You'd almost be better off just staying away from that and wait until the appropriate time when you can release that information. Yeah.
I agree with you. I agree. You should be his publicist.
I don't know about all that, but hey, thanks. But, it's interesting to see. And I think the timing is compelling. I've been watching this for some time, out of curiosity and just to see where it was going, and also following the different narratives, I guess, if you will, that are being put out there. You have Luis Elizondo, who is the former director of the ATEP program, at the highest levels of the Pentagon, working on researching these craft, and supposedly he got tired of it not being released to the public, so he went out. Quit his job and then went public with it. But I can't imagine he'd be able to do that without the government's permission, based on the fact that he was working on classified information. And that's Dr. Greer's position too, is that these folks are disseminating, propaganda to set up or establish some sort of narrative for invasion, extraterrestrial invasion. But who knows? Did we lose your mic? You there, brother? Russ?
It looks like he's muted. Maybe he had one of those emergency calls.
Could be. You never know.
But I'm not pretty sure.
Yeah. I'll give him a second there to come back. So, we'll keep an eye on it for the listeners and for our own curiosity. And it is interesting. What do you think, Russ? What are your thoughts on it? We don't talk to you, ask your opinion on this too often. What are your thoughts? You seem like you've been doing a little more research on it lately. What have you come across? What are you
we still
finding?
talking about UFO stuff?
Yeah.
I was off in research land trying to find those Fauci emails.
Oh, okay.
Because I hear a lot about the Mike.
Mm-hmm.
I hear a lot about.
We have
Welcome
experienced
back. For those of you
technical
just tuning in.
difficulties. Welcome back to your Philadelphia live stream. So what are we talking about, boys? You done talking about the aliens?
Yeah, we can move on from. We'll see where it goes next. I think we've talked about it, and I'll continue to follow it for the show and for my own personal reasons. But we'll see what happens next. We'll see. If Dr. Greer's right, then this next year could be quite interesting. Maybe this fall or winter. We'll see.
You said something about people suggested that there would be, and this is just theory. This is part of a movie that we're talking about.
Right.
But in the movie, they suggested something about a false flag operation. Is that what you said? What would that look like? In the
Well-
movie sense, what would that look like if that were in a movie?
Well, there's been accounts from folks in the military who have seen these craft actually enter controlled airspace and shoot lasers down into some of the nuclear facilities. And, I suppose they could do something like that over a city. There's actually a report, I'd have to pull the research on it, when they showed up over the Capitol, and it was reported in several big outfits, news outfits, back in the 50s or 60s, I think. So, and then they kind of went with the propaganda stories of hiding these things. So, these craft apparently exist. Are they extraterrestrial? Are they not? I don't know. We don't know. If Bob Lazar is telling the truth, he passed several lie detector tests. He seems pretty believable. The bone scanner thing at Area 51. The fact that some of his records were erased or modified. That's pretty compelling evidence. They've raided his business. Most of the three-letter agencies have raided his business multiple times.
And this is going to be in that movie?
That was in one of the last documentaries there that Dr. Greer did and some others. But yeah, we'll see what the cosmic hoax. But there's people saying that Dr. Greer is full of it. So who knows? Who knows really what the truth is until we learn more, I suppose.
Very
But
interesting.
we'll see what happens.
For those of us just tuning in, you're listening to Mike G in the Morning with The Law Matters. Only on the Freedom Station, WFYL. So let's discuss these emails with Dr. Anthony Fauci.
Yes.
Somebody sent me a cartoon earlier today that had a picture of Hillary Clinton sitting behind Fauci in a classroom. Little cartoon, Fauci and Hillary. And Hillary passes him a note, and he looks at it and says, should have deleted the emails.
Oh, man.
Need some bleach bit there, right?
That's great.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
what do we
emails
know
are good.
about these emails? Somebody asked me if I had a chance to check it out, and I said, too long to read. Do you get that?
Yeah, right. Too long to
Ultimately,
read.
it looks like there was some long email warning Fauci that China wasn't being 100% honest. Get out of town!
Yeah, get out of town. Yeah, no, right?
You lied to us.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't being 100% honest, and ultimately, they weren't being 100% honest. And it was this lengthy email about all the reasons why they thought that to be the case. And his response was too long to read, meaning, he acknowledged that the email was received, but he did not read its contents, nor would he be responding to its contents. And if you look at that particular email, the information may have been helpful at the time, right?
Right.
It would have added some insight to the positions he was taking at the time, and would have added some. Actually, no. Bring this to our discussions. It would have definitely added something to the positions he was taking at the time. Who knows whether it would have changed his positions, but at least he would have had that information, because that apparently wasn't suspected at that point, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Thought the information we were getting from China was good to go.
Oh yeah, well, you got to trust those people over there, yeah.
Now, are we likely to get banned for even discussing these emails?
I hope not. Everybody else seems to be talking about them, and I think Facebook actually finally changed their position on some of this stuff now that there's facts actually supporting the opposite of what the fact checkers were doing. So it's interesting how that's worked out, right?
I'm interested.
Facebook reverses ban on posts claiming COVID-19 was man-made, so they're no longer blocking that because there's a fair amount of evidence now to support that it came out of the Wuhan lab. We talked about Dr. Shi. She's back in the news again early on during this when she came out talking about it. And what's the likelihood that just so happens they had it in that lab and there were some people there at the lab who got sick, and then it shows up in that area? It's like Occam's razor, right? Usually the simplest solution is the right one, right?
Well,
and he was aware and talking in some of these emails that I've seen released about the gain of function, which is the biggest thing. So they were putting that, I believe, that S protein on the outside of the
Yeah,
virus
talk a
to
little bit
make
about
it
the gain of
compatible.
function. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, and this is really interesting. There actually, I do have a clip there in the doc. Maybe we can play in a moment. You could start around the 30-second mark, Russ, where Rand Paul recently was questioning Dr. Fauci specifically about these topics related to the COVID-19, and he adamantly denies it. And you can see he gets pretty agitated. But
And
now that
sweaty.
his emails have been released, it looks like he is basically lying. You know, that's how it appears. So we'll see what happens. Now some Republicans are calling for him to be fired, you know, for his incompetence and these little white lies or whatever you want to call them, moral lies, I think they call them, if there's such a thing.
So
About
is
the masks.
this thing with Rand, is this about gain of function?
Yeah, I believe this one is. If you want to go ahead and play that one, Russ, if you don't mind, that'd be great.
Hit it, Russ.
Yeah,
Hit it, Russ. Ladies and gentlemen, brought to you in part by Russ.
You kind of sprung this on me, Chris.
You're getting your pizza for the fire, aren't you?
Yes.
Sprung it on you. I put it in the dock an hour ago.
An hour
yeah,
ago?
you know, it's interesting. Rand Paul, I think, does a
You
great
guys
job.
didn't
And the
tell me
other
there was
thing,
a
too,
doc.
is Rand Paul's a medical doctor. So there's that.
All right, let's try and.
What do you got for us, Mr. Producer Man?
I changed some settings around.
Oh, yeah? Change the settings during the show?
Well, before
during
we
the live
started the show, so like everything is kind of out of whack.
Okay.
So I don't have you guys plus a screen share, but I have the screen share itself, so that's good.
Yeah. Button should be right next to the flux capacitor there on your left.
Yeah. Well, I'm checking the turn signal fluid right now.
Perfect.
So
I want to run out of that.
You guys hear that ding? Now I do want to take a note here, and I'm gonna share the screen for you guys on the Skypes.
Thank you.
If you look at this BS detector here, okay. So this is what YouTube puts under those channels that they don't want to ban or apply the rules to that make them a lot of ad revenue, but they still want to, you know, say that they apply the rules equally or something like that, or fool people into thinking it. We didn't get this special treatment from our YouTube overlords, and as evidence, I'm kind of butthurt about all of it. So, you know. But they get Fox News gets a special banner and we don't. That's the point.
Okay.
I feel discriminated. All right, let's get this started.
He told you. Senator Rand Paul calling out the media after newly released emails show a key Wuhan researcher thanked Dr. Fauci for downplaying the coronavirus lab leak theory, but still, the press wasted no time gushing over the emails, 3,000 plus, actually praising their frank honesty and the pressure that fell on one man's shoulders. Senator Rand Paul joins us now to react. Senator, I watched you with Laura last night. I've been watching you along the way. We also watched your exchanges with Dr. Fauci live. What do the 3,200 emails tell you?
Well, they tell me that early on he was very worried. You know, there's a disturbing picture. He gets an email or he gets notification of what's going on in Wuhan, and he immediately sends something to his assistant, an email saying, "We must meet immediately. Read this article." And in the subject line in the article, it says gain of function research in Wuhan. Well, he still denies to this day that he was funding it. And as you know, gain of function is where you take an animal virus and you make it into a super virus that infects humans. They were doing this at the Wuhan lab. Dr. Fauci still denies it to this day, but in his private emails, he puts in the subject line, urgent, we must discuss this gain of function research. So he knows it's gain of function, and he needs to be pinned down on this. There are scientists across America who will dispute what he's saying, who says that specifically the grant and the money given to Wuhan that Dr. Fauci approved, that it was gain of function research. And we need to talk to these scientists in this field and hear from them about how Dr. Fauci is not being honest with the American public.
And, you know, just the tone of some of these emails, even though some of them are redacted, some of them are redacted, show the urgency, basically OMG. Are we basically responsible for that? And should the guy who's funding these labs be in charge of telling America how to handle it and what happened here? There's a disconnect to putting him in charge. That was a big mistake.
Yeah, so
we investigated ourselves and found no wrongdoing. I just want to make that perfectly clear.
That's right.
Early on, I was somewhat persuaded. All these scientists were telling me that it couldn't have come from the lab, and I listened to them. But then I discovered that they had not revealed that they were the very scientists that were funding the lab. So the conflict of interest is this. If this virus came from the lab, there's a certain amount of at least moral culpability to the people who are advocating for this. Dr. Fauci, to this day, says he still trusts the Chinese scientists. I don't think he seems to be aware of the way it works in a communist government. Do you think there aren't military generals in that lab as well? Do you think some of the scientists aren't also in the Communist Party and the military? So I don't think that having trust of Chinese scientists with gain-of-function research was very wise. In fact, it was so naive that we shouldn't have Dr. Fauci in a position of advising the U.S., the world, or anybody else because he's shown such poor decision-making.
So I watched you brawl with him many times, but I thought in a fair way, and he would try to answer your questions, but the question was he telling the truth? One of which is unmasked. You told him, I've had it already. I have the antibodies. We don't know that for sure if you need to wear a mask. We have an email of him saying cloth masks don't work to somebody else. So he tells one scientist trying to urge him to tell the country to wear masks. He's telling somebody else they don't work. What do you think he thinks?
It's the very definition of theater. If you ask him about immunity, if you ask him privately, if I've had the disease, do I in all likelihood have immunity? He'll say yes, but then he'll say, oh, we're going to completely discount it. And this is a very important public policy decision. In India, there's 1 billion people. 400,000 people a day are getting this. They have 4,000 people a day dying at least. And so there's a real question. Should you give the vaccine to people who've already had the disease, or should you save the vaccine for people who haven't been infected? There's not enough vaccine to go around in India. This is probably the most important public policy or public health decision in the world right now. But because Dr. Fauci isn't being honest about immunity, they may well be giving the vaccine to people who are already infected, which is not allowing enough people to get vaccinated for them to get to herd immunity.
And Dr. Rand Paul, this is something people should keep in mind. If he has the checkbook and he's funding these labs and these are research that the researchers want funded, why would they ever come out against him? They would be against their own interests. So this formula doesn't work for America.
Well, he has yet to apologize or even admit that they were doing gain-of-function research, even though his private emails admit immediately to his underling, oh my goodness, we have to do something immediately about this gain-of-function research. So he admits in private what he won't say in public. And this is a big deal because if he would at least say he made a mistake, there might be some consideration. But he's still denying that we funded the Wuhan lab, gain-of-function research, or that they were doing it, or that it was an unwise decision. There's a bigger decision also, Brian. We have 11 labs in the United States doing gain of function. Now, I don't give our researchers bad motives. I think our researchers are good people, but I worry about the idea of whether we should take the Spanish flu and try to transmit it and make it easier to infect it with humans, and whether that's a good idea and whether it could possibly escape in the U.S. as well. So this research, many scientists, not just people in the political world, but many scientists are very, very wary of this, and I'm going to try to have a hearing in Washington. I don't think the Democrats will allow us to do it officially, but I'm going to try to have an open discussion in the Capitol, bringing in the scientists who discuss and are worried about gain of function. Most of these people are not partisans. They're not Republicans or Democrats. They're just scientists, but they are impartial scientists who have been worried about this for a decade, that this could happen.
Yeah, actually, what you brought up is not partisan either. I think we're all against the coronavirus and stopping the next one. And you've been there first. Hashtag Fire Fauci. I know exactly how you feel going into the segment, and I don't think you've changed your mind during. Senator Rand Paul, thanks for bringing all this front and center. Appreciate it.
I mean, I think this totally expresses the frustrations of people who have had these questions over the last year or so, right? Because you have this, it just so happens to take place down the street in Wuhan. And you're like, no, it had nothing to do with that lab. That's preposterous. Why do you even bring that up?
Right.
That's wrong.
Yeah.
How dare you even say that?
The one
from a lab.
We're going to block you on Facebook.
Like,
How can you say
lab's like
that?
right down the block. Shouldn't we check that? No, we shouldn't check that out. It was a guy with bats.
The Chinese scientists told us it wasn't that.
They said no, that's good enough for me.
Right, exactly.
So with gain of function research, Chris, people who are not scientists may not hear this term all the time, It's certainly not something I've got a tremendous amount of experience with. I think the discussion with Rand Paul right there brought up enough that you can sort of glean from the context, but I want to just go ahead and read the Wikipedia entry here.
Oh, okay, good idea.
Must be true because it's on Wikipedia. I think this
Yeah,
is
that's
basic
right.
enough that I think it's basic enough that we can rely on. It says gain of function research is a term used to describe any field of medical research which alters an organism or disease in a way that increases pathogenesis, transmissibility, or host range, the types of hosts that a microorganism can infect. This research is intended to reveal targets to better predict emerging infectious diseases and to develop vaccines and therapeutics. For example, influenza B can only infect humans and harbor seals. Introducing a mutation that would allow influenza B to infect rabbits in a controlled laboratory situation would be considered gain of function experiment, as the virus did not previously have that function. However, such an experiment could help reveal which parts of the virus are responsible for its host range, enabling the creation of antiviral medicines which block this function. In virology, gain-of-function research is employed with the intention of better understanding current and future pandemics. In vaccine development, gain-of-function research is conducted in the hope of gaining a head start on a virus and being able to develop a vaccine or therapeutic before it emerges. The term gain-of-function is sometimes applied more narrowly to refer to research which could enable a pandemic potential pathogen to replicate more quickly or cause more harm in humans or other closely related mammals. What do you think of that? Is that a fair description of it? I got Russ up for this as well.
Yes.
Yeah, thanks, Russ.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
But that's not how it happened.
No.
Right.
Come from a lab down the street. What are you talking about?
Well,
Yeah.
what I'm getting out of this is, first of all, Murphy's Law. Are you guys familiar with Murphy's Law? I think Dr. Murphy may have been responsible. For those unfamiliar, anything that can go wrong will go wrong. And second, I'm getting these visions of that scene in Jurassic Park where the scientists, I think it was probably toward the end or maybe toward the beginning. I haven't seen it in a while. But they were so concerned with, can they bring this dinosaur, back to life through DNA or whatever? They were so obsessed with that they didn't think, wow, should we? Is this a good idea? Maybe this could backfire really, really badly. People could get stomped.
Right. Well, we have a pretty bad.
Here's what we
record,
got with
I
the
think.
pandemic: was we got we've got dinosaurs walking around down the street from Jurassic Park, and we got Fauci saying, "No, the dinosaurs didn't come from Jurassic Park." Some guy ate a bat and turned into a dinosaur. It didn't come from the park. Stop asking if it came from the park. That's
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Right. Don't even talk about it because we're
This
gonna block
is fake
you.
news. You're not allowed to say that the dinosaurs came from Jurassic Park.
Yeah, that's what I got from
That's
it.
pretty
And
much
it looks like we are very over our air time. So if, so I think this ought to be a transition into the rogue hours, or I guess.
Okay, but this has got to be, you got to make sure this gets over the air with our Jurassic Park discussion.
That's
Oh,
right.
yeah.
You may trim the aliens or something like that, but
I'll
that
figure
certainly needs to
something
make
out.
it over the airwaves.
Okay, you let me do the editing, would you?
So how you want me to do a transition?
Yes, for those of us just tuning in.
Station identification. For those of us just tuning in, you're listening to Mike G in the morning with The Law Matters, only on the Freedom Station, WFYL.
So now what?
I did want to bring something up about the Fauci emails. I was trying to look at it, and they make it very, very, very difficult to find what you're looking for. If you read these articles, and I've had this complaint with articles on a lot of different things, where they say that something they're referencing says something, and they won't just link the document that they're referencing. They got to link like another article that talks about it or something. And then that article links another article.
Yeah, right.
Can't you just point to what you're referencing?
It'd probably be a better way to do it.
Are we
yeah.
allowed to look at the original sources? Please, sir.
Depends on what it is.
It's ridiculous.
Well, that's part of what's been happening during the pandemic too, is they keep referencing these other articles. Like one news organization will reference this one, but that story was fake news. So,
Well, here's the thing that I was talking about how this guy wrote this lengthy email,
mm-hmm.
and I'll say this: this guy Michael Sanger sent out a tweet. He says, "My favorite of the hashtag Fauci emails, Nielsen." Quote, Dr. Fauci, I'm a physicist with urgent proof China has misled the world with its data, and COVID has already spread in the U.S. since 2019. Mass testing will give the illusion of exponential growth. And it says Fauci, TLDR. I don't know what that's. What is
that
TLDR?
stands for too long didn't read.
Too long didn't read. Gotcha.
Or covering my own butt. You pick.
Now.
Yeah, right.
He chose to ignore it, is the point.
Yeah, and they make it difficult. Some of this is redacted.
When you're making $400,000 a year, can you do that? Can you just say, "Oh, yeah, your emails are too long. I'm not going to read that."
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you this.
I mean, you would think you would see the word urgent.
Hold on. Let's talk about this practically speaking, because we want to be fair here. So I'm going to read what you've got in the screenshots from what this guy is sending over to Fauci. He says, here are a few examples. I'm confident that China stopped counting dead COVID-19 infected bodies since January 7th of 2020. They've been adding fabricated data daily to save face the world, their own people, an impressive flattening of China outbreak curve. It's easy to prove this via data analyses because, for example, improbable coincidences occurred in much of the data. My suspicions were eventually confirmed by at least two of my sources in China. The data posted by China is not only garbage, it has misled the world into a false sense of security about the death rate. I think that's what it says. Age versus death and other things. That is, if people analyze the world's data, including China, the late November/early December last year, then it's all redacted. Mm-hmm. She works at blank. It's possible everyone in her office got infected too. Who knows how many people in Alaska got it too, but I suspect many, tens of thousands of people, much more. But it has been impossible to get tested. I've called 5 places in Alaska, and none wanted me to come in for the test. Mm-hmm. I also have information about the USA. Here is some. I believe that many COVID-19 deaths were incorrectly labeled at 2019-2020 flu deaths. The spreading in the USA is almost certainly already homogeneous because it's been going on since last year without any contaminant whatsoever. Once massive testing finally starts, the truth/reality will unfortunately become obvious. It'll manifest itself as a hyper-exponential or hyperbolic growth starting a day or two after the millions of testing kits arrive and start being used. The hyper-exponential dynamics will eventually evolve into more accurately calibrated exponential curve once the number 2 tests, I don't think that's what it meant, is large enough to properly sample the population. I don't think Italy is ahead of us. I'm only mentioning this so you don't think I'm a paranoid freak. I guess he was mentioning his credentials. That's redacted. Okay. I'm convinced you already know the outbreak is way past the point of containment, and unfortunately herd immunity will soon ensue. Then outbreak 2 will happen shortly thereafter, and hopefully not ad infinitum. I'm writing to make sure you already know, at least suspect everything I'm about to tell you. I need to clear my conscience. And then Fauci sends him back something saying too long to read. Okay, so Chris, your response was, are you allowed to do that when you're making that kind of money? Are you allowed to just say, yep, don't feel like reading? Well, I suppose it depends on who it's coming from, right? Because if you're somebody who receives, how many emails do you think that guy was getting at a time?
I'm sure he gets a lot. And I would imagine he
a
probably
lot
has a staff.
I think I get a lot of emails. I probably I get over 100 emails a day easily.
Sure.
And a lot of times I'm not able to respond to every. You know, I occasionally get people who will write in, and not related to the show, but to my law office with these lengthy legal questions. I don't know who they are. They are not my client.
Sure.
And
Yeah,
almost
sure.
like just setting up. Can you help me out and answer these legal questions? You know,
Right.
we don't do that. We don't
Right.
sit around writing free legal advice all day. But if I were to respond to every one of those, I would not get anything done. I would not be able to not be able to support my family if I did. Let's put it that way, right? Everybody's got a job to do. So if he's sitting there responding, you know, he's on a massively different scale than I am at the height of the pandemic. So to expect him to respond to each and every email, unreasonable. But maybe if in the first couple of lines he sees, okay, this guy's got some kind of credibility and he's saying he's got some important information.
Right.
What you probably do is forward that to somebody who's working with you, because he's not a one-man band, Dr. Fauci, right? It's not like he reads it or nobody reads it. I'm sure he's got people helping him out.
Yeah, he would have to.
Somebody you say, hey, do me a favor, you take the 15 minutes to read this. Give me a couple of sentences as to what it means, what it's all about. You know, fill me in.
Well, he probably has somebody who reads the emails for him and then gives him the important ones. Well, and if that's how it works, then that was just a lazy secretary, basically.
Well, early in my professional career, I worked in a communication department for a big firm, financial firm, and they had teams, literally teams of people who would respond to the executives' emails because, like you're saying, Mike, they had so many. But they made sure everyone was read. And, you know, if it was something like that with that type of content, it would have been highlighted and put on the executive's desk for probably a response directly from them instead of some sort of canned response to a lot of the, you know, familiar questions, I guess you could say.
Gotcha. Yeah. So they sort of got these pre-prepared templates for these frequently asked questions. Or
we had binders, real thick binders with letters, and you modify them a little bit, but there was some foundation there. Yeah.
Gotcha. So I don't want to talk about the guy who wrote this email. I do want to say something, just practically speaking. I'm not saying that, you know, what Fauci did was right or anything like that, but I will say the guy who wrote that email should know better. No?
Probably.
Should you not know better this day and age to send somebody who's in the height of the pandemic, dealing with all this stuff, in charge of all this stuff, a lengthy email?
Sure.
I mean, for just about everything I do, I'm working on a brief for court right now, and I'm trying to get it as short as possible because in my mind, I'm thinking if I include every detail,
right,
and I really put all the information that I think helps my case, the judge will not read this, and it's not going to be effective.
Sure.
I've got to really narrow it down, hit him as hard as I can with a few different, with my best points, right? Really boil it down. And especially if it's something like this where it's going to require more information.
Right.
You probably start off with, Fauci, here's who I am. I've got some important information regarding, you know, data misrepresentation in China over the last year or two.
Right.
Could we discuss this further? That's it, right? You know what I mean?
Right.
Wouldn't that be it? Wouldn't that be the best way to get a hold of him?
Yeah, it makes more sense. Yeah.
Especially, you know, being
better way to communicate.
Conservative media, I've had to talk with CEOs and stuff like that. I'm never writing them paragraphs worth of emails. I'm writing them a couple of sentences, and that's it. Otherwise,
you're better off.
It's like sending somebody a video. Hey, do me a favor, watch this 10-minute video. Nobody watches that, right?
Right. That's right.
Unless you're a fan of the Mike G in the Morning program, you listen to us regularly. You want to see our videos.
Please watch our 2-hour videos.
But if you wanted to get somebody into Mike G in the Morning, you wouldn't send them like a full episode probably, unless they were saying, hey, you know, I got a long ride, getting ready to listen, send this over. You're probably sending them one of our 1-minute clips and say, hey, check out these knuckleheads, right? Check out these mustard-eating knuckleheads.
Check out these crazy guys.
Yeah.
But do you think that's a fair assessment? Do you think
that
shares a little bit of the blame?
Absolutely. Yeah, there's a lot of truth in that. And there's, you know, you had a lot going on. There's a lot of distractions these days and a lot to keep up with. So, but good points, you know, and we've learned about that. You know, the PCR test was another thing. They basically modified and changed the way they were testing, you know, the comorbidities, the numbers early on, the way they painted the picture of it. It sounded like it was going to be another Spanish flu. But, turned out to be quite a bit different than that. Yet they still push the masks, which he admits in his emails and publicly that they don't really work.
Email word for word.
What's that?
Can you read that email word for word? I don't think we can get taken down for reading the email word for word, can we?
Better
we
not.
Quoted tweets and we got a strike, so
that's very
they just
true.
don't like
very
us.
True. We got in trouble for quoting tweets from the Surgeon General and Eric Swalwell, who's back in the news. That knucklehead. Apparently, he's trying to sue Mo Brooks. You hear about that?
No, I didn't hear about that.
He's trying to sue Mo Brooks with respect to what happened. Mo Brooks is a Republican rep from Alabama, and his role in the January 6th riot accused him of inciting the riot. And he filed the suit in March. The suit is against Brooks, Trump Jr., and Giuliani.
Oh, really?
And he's trying to serve Mo Brooks, and he hasn't been able to find him.
Okay.
And ultimately, I guess he hired private investigators. It says the private investigator has spent many hours over many days in April and May at locations in multiple jurisdictions attempting to locate and serve Brooks to no avail, the lawyers wrote. Wow.
He's probably in disguise.
He's a real slippery guy, Mo.
Yeah, a little slippery, yeah.
Yeah, he's a real slippery guy. You can get a hold of him.
Right.
Representative, how old is Mo Brooks?
I don't know.
67-year-old.
Oh, is he? Okay.
67-year-old rep from Alabama.
Pretty elusive.
Keep an eye on those guys.
You just send an alert out on like the turnpike or whatever.
Yeah, right. Have you seen Mo Brooks?
Right. Following plate.
Get like candid shots of him from the paparazzi.
Right.
Holy mackerel. Wow, if I were Swalwell with everything that was over his head about the alleged Chinese spy and everything like that, I would not be going on the offensive.
Yeah, right? Yeah. Pretty crazy.
I would not be throwing rocks at people. I'd be laying low.
Good time to lay low. That's for sure.
So one of the articles here says, Brooks, perhaps taking a cue from Seinfeld's George Costanza, seems to have come up with a way to temporarily avoid the inevitable. If Swalwell can't find me, he can't sue me. This is by Eric Lutz on VanityFair.com. Got to give attribution.
There we have it.
Let's see. When was the last time Mo Brooks tweeted a video an hour ago? I'm from an undisclosed location. You'll never find me.
Yeah. There's a big Mickey Mouse in the background.
Oh, yeah, right. Disney World.
Right.
That's funny. So, what we're looking at, do you have the text from that email regarding the masks?
I don't. Everyone wants to report on the masks, but I can't find anything. I can only find articles saying, "Hey, this email said this thing," but nobody has anything. I want to see the emails. I want to see the documents myself, and I can't find them. You know what? I'm going to use DuckDuckGo because Google isn't even a search engine anymore. I search for something to do with Xbox 360. It's like, oh, you mean the new Xbox? And it's like, no. I typed 360 for a reason. And it's like it's an answer engine. I'm sorry. Did I take over with this rant?
Sorry. Go Russ.
Dude, this article, USA Today, this fact check on the mask article, the mask email is great. So you gotta. Do you have the text? I thought you texted it to me, Chris.
Let me see. Let me take a look. There was some I had. Yeah.
I thought you texted me the entirety of that email.
Oh, did I? Okay. Yep. All right. That's one you're talking about. Let me go back and get it for you. Let's see here.
We're totally going to get kicked off for this because I've got too much to say on this stupid fact check article
Just
on
say it,
USA
Mike.
Today.
If we
I
get
think this is it
kicked
here,
off, we
so.
get kicked off.
Yeah, you should
People know
probably
where
pull
to
this
find us.
down from those platforms. And
So from Anthony Fauci, Wednesday, the 5th of February, 2020. So this was pretty early on. Let's see. From him to Sylvia Burwell. Sylvia, masks are really for infected people to prevent them from spreading infection to people who are not infected, rather than protecting uninfected people from acquiring infection. The typical mask you buy in the drugstore is not really effective in keeping out virus, which is small enough to pass through the material. I said this, over the course of the past several months, where
no,
it's
you
1,000
didn't.
times
Stop.
smaller.
Come on. You
No, I
didn't
did.
say it. Fauci's saying it.
Well, yeah,
Stop.
all
I
right.
did.
Sorry. It might,
did.
however, provide some slight benefit in there's a typo there, keep out gross droplets if someone coughs or sneezes on you. I do not recommend that you wear a mask, particularly since you are going to a very low risk location. Your instincts are correct. Money is best spent on medical countermeasures such as diagnostics and vaccines. Safe travels, best regards, Tony.
Okay.
So there you have it in his email.
I think
Thank
I've
you, Tony.
seen that one.
So let me
Yeah.
ask you this. He said it might help for, what does he call it? Gross what?
Droplets or something, yeah. The droplets. Let's see.
Did you put it away already?
No, I have it here. It might, however, provide
got a
some
copy of it.
slight benefit in keep out gross droplets. So there's a typo there. I think he was trying
If
to
what?
say keeping out gross droplets.
droplets. If what?
If someone coughs or sneezes on you.
Well, first of all, I've got to say, if someone coughs and sneezes on you, that is certainly gross, right? That is absolutely,
Yep.
That's gross,
it is
yeah.
definitely gross if somebody's
Seems
coughing and
legit.
sneezing.
Fine.
So but here's and I'm trying to think on all sides here, right? When you're a lawyer and you're arguing in court, what you always have to do is you just have to say, even if I make what I think is the winning best argument, what are they going to say about it? And how do I counter
Sure.
that? Because I can't just say back,
Right.
no.
You're wrong.
If they're
Mhm.
saying something that the judge could possibly perceive as reasonable, how do we counter that?
Can you
So,
fact check?
If he's
accordingly?
saying that you've got gross, if his contention is that it may prevent gross droplets, right?
Mm-hmm.
If someone's sneezing on you, could it also prevent gross droplets from that person from going further and traveling further if they're wearing it? Is that possible? Because that seems to be ultimately what their position was and is now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Would that make sense? Would that be logical?
Sure.
If he at
it's
that
logical.
point took the position that it could stop gross droplets, could you also take the same position, take it a step further and say, well, if that person who was doing the gross deed of coughing and sneezing on you, if they were
Right.
wearing it as well, that would also prevent some of the gross droplets from being transported further, from traveling further. Would
Oh,
that
there
be
you go, your
reasonable?
counter, Russ. Nice. Yeah, it makes some sense. Sure. A larger droplet like that would hit the mesh, and then, I guess it would.
I mean, if you
potentially
try to
come up
roll a
with-
marble into the Lincoln Tunnel, I suppose it's possible that it bounces off the side, right?
Yeah, I've done that a few times, and it
Yeah.
definitely hits
Well,
the side. Yeah.
But here's
You also don't want to make
you're
U-turns into it.
you're a terrible bowler though. Philly. You're a terrible bowler.
Remember that time we were heading into the city?
What's that?
The U-turn. Remember the U-turn we made
Oh
together?
yes, I do remember that. I was almost late for my television appearance.
That's right.
That guy was not a nice guy though.
Well,
No,
I-
he was very angry.
I think one of the downsides to wearing the mask is if you do sneeze in it and that sneeze happens to be full of these gross particles, as what they were called, it's probably, I mean, maybe it'll go through the mask, maybe not, but I think the thing that I'd be more concerned about is it going back onto my face, just the backsplash of it.
That is
You know,
gross too, right?
Kind
That
of
is
like,
also-
kind of
pretty
like
gross, yeah.
you take a watermelon and you throw it into a tub. That's basically what this is.
but that's what it's supposed to prevent. I mean, I'm sorry, Russ, but I'd rather it be in your face than mine. Sorry, I'm
Right,
not
right.
sorry.
Yeah, and then I take the
Yeah.
mask off out of I'm grossed outness, and I go to wipe my face. If I have the virus, that's going on it's
Yeah, I
going
guess
in the
so.
trash or
That's a
something.
little counterproductive. Here's
It's
the thing, though.
counterintuitive.
Yeah. When we first started going back to court, I was sitting in court in Delaware County, and one of the sheriff's deputies was sitting there. Everybody's wearing a mask. Everybody's spread out. This is right when we got back to court. And everybody's sitting there. And this dude pulls his mask down and sneezes. Like he pulled the mask down too. Like, dude, isn't that like the only point of the thing? What are you doing, man?
Well, I was trying to keep snot out of my mustache and beard.
It's probably like a reaction, though, like just an instinctual
I guess so,
thing.
like an instinct. Yeah, I guess so. But it kind of defeated the purpose of that. Here's so let's go a little bit further. Let's go a little bit further because I want to talk about this fact check article with respect to these emails. So they're talking about fact check, missing context, and claim about emails, Fauci's position on masks. So they bring up the text of the email that you mentioned. And ultimately, they say that these are false claims about the email leak, mischaracterize the requests and release. Oh, that's a different article that they're linking over here.
Is that the CNN article?
So basically, here are their excuses as to why it is not a fact, okay? This is why the email is not a fact. It is missing context. Number one is because of evolving guidance.
Evolving guidance, right, of course.
It says Fauci and public health agencies have updated their guidance on masks and other mitigation measures as scientists learn more about how COVID-19 works and spreads. Public officials initially discouraged masks over fears of shortages for healthcare providers. Right. So they're saying, number one, this isn't true. This email isn't true because they initially lied. That's what they said, right? That's exactly what they said. Yes. They were lying to help other people out that they thought was more important. That were more important than you. So that's why
they were moral lies. They call it or something.
That is not a fact. That is not a fact. That is false. They were merely lying so that you would be in danger instead of these people that they like better. Okay. How is that a fact check? A fact check. It's not a fact. They were lying.
Yeah.
And then they cite the tweet from the U.S. Surgeon General with all caps that I said and got it kicked off of YouTube.
Yeah. Well,
Fauci said during a March 8th interview on 60 Minutes, there's no reason to be walking around with a mask. But on April 3rd, 2020, Center for Disease Control and Prevention began urging people to wear masks in public. That was nearly a month after the WHO labeled the COVID-19 outbreak as a pandemic. Fauci's position changed too. The same day the CDC released its new guidelines, Fauci said during an appearance on Fox and Friends, people should wear masks when they can't social distance. Since then, Fauci's explained his recommendation of masks changed as more information became available about the way COVID-19 spreads and the effectiveness of masks outside of hospitals.
But here's the
thing. So basically, they're labeling it as false, right? It's missing context because no, that email, that's not enough because what you're missing is that number one, he lied, or number two, he was wrong, right? They changed because they didn't know enough about it. So they were wrong back then, and now they're right, or they were just lying.
Mike, how would that go in a courtroom? This is the scenario that I'm picturing. I couldn't have avoided that guy. I was 2 towns over murdering someone else.
Right, exactly.
So don't put me in jail, Doc. don't put me in jail.
No, it's more like I couldn't have robbed that candy store because I was busy murdering a nun in the next town over. That's basically what it's like. They're like, no, that's not true. It's not that this was true. It's that he was either wrong or he was lying, and that's it. Right. Yeah. That explains it.
Well, I don't know. So you were right when you were guessing that I wanted to talk about video games. Okay, earlier in the show. Okay, have you guys ever heard of the game Among Us?
No.
Okay.
No.
So it's this social deduction game. It's been compared to a game that I've never played called Mafia. Basically, you got 10 players. One of them is an imposter and goes around murdering the crew members, and you have to try and figure out who it is, based on who's faking things, who didn't do certain tasks, and you have to kick out whoever seems suspicious. And you can have up to 3 imposters in these games. And most people play with 2 imposters. One of my favorite excuses that some people do when they give up is, I couldn't have killed that other player. I was hiding in a vent, because a vent is something only the imposters have access to.
Huh.
It's funny.
That was a good response, Mike.
Thank you.
It's funny. You're supposed to laugh. Maybe one of these days we'll do a stream where we get together and we play this game. Okay, we'll get Liberty Lee. We'll get some other people in, and we'll show what's going on, and it'll make sense.
All get together
in a couple years or something.
Well, no, soon.
Sounds good to me. So, moral of the story. Stop spreading false information. Get the facts straight. The facts are he was either lying or totally wrong or both.
Or who knows what.
Those are the facts.
What a crazy year.
Thank you for clearing that up.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. To answer your question, Russ, if somebody were saying that the opposing side in court, please continue, please. No. Go right. No objections, Your Honor.
No objections. Please continue convicting yourself.
Yeah. Oh, goodness. All right. We have been going for quite a while. I want to thank everybody who's participated, everybody in the Mike G in the Morning audience who has joined us. I especially want to thank everybody who wrote in to receive that link of the Patriots in Pennsylvania. Quite a few people, and anybody who did write in, we would love to have you on the program. Couple of shout outs, just picking out a couple of names here. Sean Durso, avid follower of the program, participates on our social media. As a matter of fact, I got a notification. Somebody sent this over to me that Sean commented on the original post saying, so this is public information now. Can't get mad at me, Sean. He says, done, got the link, and did the deed. Very good to hear. Very good. We want to hear that everybody's participating in that. Once again, if you do not have that link that we're talking about, if you missed it earlier in the program, we want to get you onto the website, auditthevotepa.com, auditthevotepa.com. We may at some point be able to have somebody on the program or a couple of people on the program who participated in the process, whether it's here or whether it's in Arizona. We're working on that. And if anybody's got any insight, please feel free to reach out, share with us what you can, because we want to stay on top of that. But definitely want to thank everybody who did that. Shout out to Sean Durso for not only participating, but writing in on social media. Always great to see him involved. Couple of other people. So if you want to be on, just let us know. You have earned that right, and we'll get everybody on the program. You have anything else, Philly Chris?
I think I'm good. Stay safe out there, everybody. We'll see you next time.
What about you, Russ?
Well, I was looking up. I had a curiosity of whether or not YouTube has adjusted their guidelines, and I didn't have enough time to give it even a quick once over because they have so many guidelines that it's stupid. But do we want to save that for another show and give them another week, or do we want to skim over it now?
Well, why don't you give us the 1,000-foot view, right? If there's anything that jumps out with a couple of sentences, and then we can really put it under a microscope next week, because I don't think we've got.
All right, let's see here.
Doesn't allow content about COVID-19 that poses a serious risk of egregious harm. That's certainly what we did last time, right? We said
Oh, yeah.
by quoting a tweet from the Surgeon General of the United States, we pose a serious risk of egregious harm. If you're posting content, treatment misinformation, prevention misinformation, it's if you're content that promotes something that contradicts WHO or local health authorities.
It doesn't mention the CDC. I don't think it mentioned it before, but it's interesting how they go for the WHO over the CDC. Maybe.
All right, I think we did mention that presumably you can take something right off the CDC's website and read it word for word, and if that is contradictory to either the WHO or a local health authority, what if I think I mentioned this, but what if your local health authority is something like South Dakota, where they say everybody's open, everybody's free to go, right?
Well, I think most states are free to go.
The CD, I know, but they were pretty early on in that, weren't they? Or like a Florida or a Texas, someplace where they tried to open up pretty early, even though that wasn't exactly in line with some of these more stringent places, possibly even the WHO.
I think it
But
was
what if
one
like
of
the
Dakotas
CDC?
that
What if
just
the
didn't shut
CDC
down.
had one recommendation out there and a local health authority decided to take a different approach, and they said this is what we're doing around here. So then if you quote the CDC because in contravention of what the local health authorities who were opening up said, then that would be taken down, right? No, you can't repeat what the CDC said.
I think what they do is they throw a dart at a wall, and if it actually hits the wall,
That
if
may
it
very
hits
well
the
be
wall,
true, Russ.
or
very well be
they
true.
throw a dart at a wall, and if the dart is thrown, then they just say screw you, you get a strike.
That's one way of going about it. I think that let's talk more about this on next week's program.
Yeah.
Do you have any PSAs for anybody? You know, we talked about your house burning down. I know you've mentioned that you want to make sure that your smoke detectors, your carbon monoxide, right?
Yeah, get a
Change the
carbon
batteries.
monoxide detector. Get the other. Get all the detectors, radon, stuff like that, and make sure you're not detectoring things that are harmful.
You know what I was thinking we should do is we should bring Russ out. We should follow Russ around with a camera crew.
No, don't do that. I sit in
And-
my chair all day.
No, well, you're not going to for the
Your
purposes
camera
of
crew
this-
could just
this-
be a tripod.
this Russ documentary. We're gonna make you actually do stuff. We want to make. What we should
It's not
do
a
is we should go out to the
documentary.
range with Russ, and then we should make him come on out to a seminar. What do you think, Billy Chris? Would that be
That
fun?
sounds like a plan. We got to do that. Yes.
That would be a lot of
Absolutely.
fun.
How
wouldn't
much
it?
am I getting
Right.
paid to do that?
What's that?
How much are you paying me to do this documentary?
It's an educational opportunity.
Is it
bud.
an autobiography? Do I have to do voiceover work too?
Have
You
your
can if you
lawyer
want.
contact me. Have your lawyer contact me. And work out- work
I'll
the
have
deal
my
out.
people talk to your people. Okay.
Yeah, there you go. Get all our people in the same room.
I'll send you the contact information for my agent.
Right.
We'll have to get you on the calendar sometime.
Mhm.
Oh,
That would be
okay.
fun, though. I really would enjoy doing that. Day in
I
the
would
life of-
not.
Yeah.
I would not.
I have to
No,
do that.
if you're gonna do a documentary, it's me sitting on my butt. If you're gonna do any other kind of Russ gets followed by a camera kind of thing, then it's not a documentary.
Got
It's not like
Okay,
a
so
biographical kind of
We've
thing.
been fact checked.
Yes.
We've been fact checked.
Yes.
We
That's
cannot
right.
call it a documentary.
Oh my goodness.
Oh,
The,
so
the
it's
fact
fact-checking
checks
us now.
the fact checks from a year ago, you
Mhm.
guys, saying, no, it's a baseless conspiracy. No, it's baseless. It's baseless. You can't say it.
Yeah,
Seems like
does
the,
that not irritate everybody else though?
It's irritating
that?
like egg on face.
Yeah.
There you go.
But they're not affected by it. That's the problem, though, isn't it? Because you know that there are so many people in this country who don't care.
Yeah.
You know there are so many people in this country, so many leftists, so many brainwashed people who, you can provide the proof, and they just don't care.
That's right.
They could eat all the pudding and the proof in it, and they still wouldn't
That's right.
care.
The fact
Yeah,
that
that's why
USA
we are
Today
where we
can
are
put
now.
out-
Proof is mustard.
The fact that USA Today can put out this bogus fact check. I don't even want to call it an article. That would be an insult to articles everywhere.
Yeah.
But the fact
Right.
that they can put this on the internet and believe that people are going to read this and say, oh, okay, well, that makes sense. That just shows what kinds of idiots they're catering to. So if you read this stuff, and this is where you're getting your information, they are depending upon you being an idiot. So you can either follow through and help them out and be a complete idiot, or you can stop being an idiot, stop eating bowls of mustard, and get with the program. What do you think?
I like it. Have some mustard.
Might have a new catchphrase.
Get the
It's breaking up a
popcorn,
little
get
bit
the
there.
mustard.
What does that mean to play us out?
I don't know.
Russ, can you pull that up?
What? Oh,
We'll do it live.
The
Oh,
Do it
well,
live.
we can't because there's curse words in it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotta be careful.
We got to find that. We'll find one ahead of time.
I'll
at some
make an
point.
edited one that we can use.
Yeah, there we go. That works.
Yeah.
All right.
Am I supposed to play out now?
Should I play us out? Should I play us out?
What does
Yeah,
that
play
mean?
us out. Do it live, Mike.
What does that mean to play us out?
A new cut from Sting. Cut off his new album. Take it away. He does say that, right?
I
I
don't know.
think so. Yeah. It sounds right.
That's all the time we've got for today. Stick around for We the People, The Constitution Matters. Pastor David Whitney, Professor Phil Duffy. I'll be joining as your legal analyst. We miss you, Ellie. Daddy loves you.